you. We start now.
Good afternoon, evening, and how are you all? I'm Horazi. Welcome to what is normally Ask the Unicorn. We're kind of changing up a little bit as we go. We'll give everyone the opportunity to get used to the idea. I'm actually going to be calling it the show from this point on The Way of the Unicorn. And I'll do basically the same thing, only I'll use a topic every single episode so that you can all learn some things as well as answer some or ask some questions. I will be more than happy to answer any type of question that you have as long as it pertains to the metaphysical, the spiritual, the universal, the paranormal, and the mystical. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask them. However, I will not answer any type of question that has to do with someone dying or when they're going to die, or anything that has to do with whether or not a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend is cheating on someone. Beyond that, any type of question is fair game. Now, we've had a pretty interesting week. It's been a good week, and in changing the show up, what I ask of all of you to do is to get your friends to watch and get them to call in with questions if they have questions. We saw some pretty cool things today. Actually, I was watching, every once in a while I do, in between teaching classes and doing other activities, have the opportunity to kind of surf the web, and saw some pretty cute things on there. One of them I put up on my page, the Horazi Deliza page. It was like this flash mob orchestra. This little girl tipped a bass player, and all of a sudden when she tipped the bass player, a whole orchestra came out and played Beethoven's Ninth for her, which was awesome, including the choir and everything. You just have to kind of look at it to be able to appreciate it. And I just thought, things like that should happen every single day. Someone somewhere should be doing something really cool like that. And especially in our country, we have a tendency to let the stress of politics and things like that get to us once in a while, and I think that we should just take the politics and throw it out the window. And everyone that has any type of a talent or any type of a gift, come out and use that gift or talent, because it helps the world. It helps everyone. It helps everyone to know that there's something beautiful happening, and that there's something positive that is happening. Now, I'm sure that at some point in time, you all will be asking me questions, and I'll welcome all of your questions. I just want to share that with you. Now, since we're waiting for questions, I have some other things that I'd like to talk about.
Oh, wait.
Hold on. I have some other things that I'd like to talk about. One of them is we're saying that every once in a while we'll do some movie reviews or show reviews of things that may be coming up. If you're like us, you kind of capitalize off of things like Netflix, because we don't have a lot of money to go to a bunch of theater productions, even though I would love to, go and see every single movie. A little while ago we saw 300, and that was like a treat for us, but we are very good Netflix specialists and Xbox Video, but lately, I don't know if you've all noticed this, the movies are all kind of the same. And they are beginning to go backwards in evolution, kind of like I've noticed some really strange racial divides there. There's actually a movie that's called Angry White Man that someone would actually pay for. I mean, I think that we're far beyond those kind of titles, and what's the whole Nazi thing? This is America. We're supposed to be against that kind of a thing, yet we're advertising movies about it. There's another thing, a little while ago, Tom Cruise, and I don't care what you people say about Tom Cruise, I think he's a good actor, and I've watched him grow and develop, and I've heard a lot of rumors about him. I really don't care. He's a great talent. He did a movie called Jack Reacher, and we actually refer to it as Jack Reacher.
Yeah, say it. Jack Reacher.
Say it, Jack Reacher.
Jack Reacher.
But last night I noticed that there was a new movie out on Xbox Video than this guy, and I don't know who he is. He kind of looks like Joey Lawrence, but and Matt Damon, if they were like, But it's called Jack Ryan. So we went from Jack Reacher to Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan. It's like a
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
that's
totally lame, you know.
really
But
lame.
I know a lot of independent filmmakers that are we're all attempting to do something very very positive and very very creative, and there's a lot of talent out there. And as a matter of fact, here in Maine, we have a whole group of independent film artists and film creators and writers, directors, producers, and all of those. And I hope that you will all support them. Um, but as far as the whole Hollywood thing, they kind of run out of ideas. Really, seriously. They get clones. There's like several clones of Helen Hunt. There's a bunch of clones of
Matt Damon.
Whoa, yeah, dude, have you noticed that? It's like everyone looks like Matt Damon. It's the weirdest thing, you know. And there's they look for certain types, and we're kind of tired of those types. In case you all didn't notice, it's kind of looking at superhero movies where they still wear panties on the outside of their leotards. I don't think anybody really wants to see that anymore, even people who actually wear panties. But I just want to point that out and say that you should all of you support your independent filmmakers.
In fact, we should give a shout out to Seth, who's watching.
Oh, Seth. Yeah, Seth is a very creative person. He's real cool. And so is Alan Dillingham because he cooks really good. But, no, I'm just kidding. But Seth is a very, very wonderful director in the independent film market. He's directing a film now. It is called Frostbite. And I hope that you all will, as soon as it comes out, I hope that you all run out and see it. And that's which brings me to some really important points. It is time for us little people to start winning. Okay? That means us people that don't get micro budgets. You know what a micro budget actually... I found this out, you know, because a micro budget to me is like 50 cents in a hot dog. But a micro budget to people in the Hollywood film industry is between $2 and $5 million. That's what they call a micro budget.
Wow.
Okay? Seriously. I could not believe this. I pitched a film once. He says, well, you know, this sounds like it would be a bigger budget film. And what we're doing now is a micro budget. And I said, I can work with a micro budget. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about at the time. You know, micro budget. Because I work with a micro budget. Really, micro budget.
Like what you got in your pocket.
Yeah. Besides dust.
Duct tape.
You know, so when they said that, I went, that's amazing. $5 million, and they're calling that, give me the micro budget, okay? In fact, I don't even have to have the full micro budget. Just give me half a micro budget. I'll be fine. Anyway, please support your local filmmakers. Please support your local filmmakers. Please support your local filmmakers. Go to the Indiegogo page where Frostbite is being advertised, and if you can, give a donation towards that cause, okay? And while you're at it, look for the Falkir page as well, and give a donation for Falkir. That is a movie that I am producing and directing. And I think that if we all start looking for each other, we will make a difference. Artistically, people like us, the independent filmmakers, you know, Seth, myself, Alan, Bill McLean, a few other people that I know of, Cosby Tatum, is that Cosby? They are very, very, and David Garfield, very, very talented people.
And Mark Allen Wood.
Mark Allen Wood, very, very talented people that deserve the opportunity to entertain you. And I do hope that you will all support them when you hear these names, okay, and you see something made by them. Let's take the money out of the pockets of those big giant people that keep making Gone with the Wind. And
Lame.
yeah, lame. That keep making lame. And lame again. And lame.
Me, myself, and Lane.
I don't want to see a new production of Spider-Man or The Flash. I don't want to. No. But see, the way that it works is if they tell you there's only spaghetti to eat, that's all you'll order. You know, so we need to give them some different flavor, and the only way you're going to give different flavor is if you support different flavors. So How about the independent filmmakers? I don't mean those people that are sitting around waiting to be discovered by Hollywood. I mean people that have creativity that want to express it. So, check them out. All right, let's get back to the point at hand. I think that one of the things that I want to talk to you all about is ceremony. I need to give you a clear picture of what ceremony is. Ceremony is not all of the movements. Ceremony is the thought and the energy that you put behind any type of a point of mysticism that you try to create. Let's say that you're doing candle magic. It's great that you can have candles. It's great that you can scroll all over the candles and wave your arms about, but you have to understand the ceremony of things. And the ceremony is the actual fluid that goes inside the ritual. Okay, so the next time you decide to do some candle magic, think about some things, and I'll give you a brief assignment. Think about where that candle came from. Think about where it took it to make that candle. Now, if you got one of those candles that a machine made and there's really no other energy than no energy other than the machine that made it, fine. You can do that if you'd like, but you're going to have to fill that candle with energy, and writing on it isn't enough. You're going to have to instill some thought. Think about what you're using. You're about to use fire. Fire being one of the 5 basic elements that create and sustain all life. Think about what it took to get the wax, what it took to put the wick in the wax, what it took to make sure that that candle would work properly for you. And sometimes you might even think about the people that are behind all of that, why they did that. Was it just to make a buck, or was it to actually provide light in case the electricity went out, or maybe they understand something about ceremony. I myself, when I do candle magic, and I do candle magic all the time, I choose to use white unscented candles. There are a lot of people that choose to use different color candles, and that's great, but here's the point. The fire is always the same color.
So why white?
There is a thought. The reason that I use white is because the white candle is absent of any solid vibration, okay, as far as color goes. That means that I can put in it what I want, and I don't have to deal with what's already put there. Why no scent? The reason that there's no scent is because scent is an intention. When someone puts a scent on something, it's because they've already imposed a thought on it. But if you get something that has no scent, then you can impose whatever thought you choose on that. So, white unscented candles, you can do whatever you want with it. No, you don't always have to use a black candle if you're doing a protection spell. No, you do not have to use a green candle if you are doing a prosperity spell. You can use any candle that you want. Now, there are some that you can use these. I'm not saying that you can't. You can, but they are not entirely necessary. Mysticism is the best. Mysticism should always be very, very simple, without any complex moves to it. You will write your intention on the candle, and then you will say a brief prayer, whatever that prayer is to you. I use iambic pentameter a lot. Why? Because I'm a vocalist. I'm also a poet and writer. So it works for me. That's my predilection. So I use my predilection. You may decide to do something entirely different. That is up to you. What matters is that you have one, the need. And the need and the want can be the exact same thing. You just have to make them match. 2, you have the technique. You can't just go into something haphazardly. You need to think about what it is that you're doing and formulate it so that it is intelligent. Remember, you're dealing with the universe and asking the universe for something. Therefore, you have to come across as an intelligent being. So, think about what you're doing. Don't do it just because you saw it on Charmed. Okay? Really think about what you want to make happen, or what you need to make happen. Don't just read something from a book. If you're going to read something from a book that you believe will work for you, then don't just read it. Learn it. Memorize it. Make it a part of your consciousness, and it will be more effective for you. Now, 3, you have to have the desire to make something happen. That means that you've got to put yourself into it. There has to be the desire to actually make it happen. And you have to desire it like it is your next breath. where you've crossed this desert and you're so thirsty you can't even think, and then someone puts a glass of water in front of you. You desire that glass of water, and with all of your being, you want something to drink. That's the way that you need to think about magic. This is the way that I think of mysticism. This is how I think about ceremony. I go into a ceremony as if this is the only time I'm going to get to do this right. So I need to make it 100%. If I'm getting ready to do a spell of protection or a spell of, or a ceremony of prosperity or healing, I don't want to have to do it again. I don't want the opportunity to do it again. I want to make it happen then and there and see it unfold. So I have the ability, and so do all of you, to bring all of my desire right to the forefront. Focus it. Make sure that I know what I'm doing, and I'm doing what I know. I make sure that I say what I mean and mean what I say the first time. You cannot go into something thinking, well, if I don't get it right, I'll try it again. Because what you've done is you've taken your whole intention and you have split it in half. And you've done what a lot of us do even in our relationships. What we do is say, well, a relationship is 50-50. No. A relationship is 100-100. You don't give expecting the other person to give. You give because that's what's in your nature to do, because of how you feel for that person. So you've got to give 100%, knowing that the universe will fulfill your need, but you've got to give all that you can with this thought, whether or not the universe does what I would want for them to do. I will do this to the best of my ability because that is what I expect of myself, and that is what this calls for. Do we understand each other? Hopefully we do. Okay? And in that way, you put everything into it that you possibly can. You don't say things like, well, I did my best, because you really don't know what your best is until after you've done it. And even then, because you got smarter from doing your best goes up to a different level. So what you do is you do all that you possibly can. It's great to believe in things. And there are a lot of people that run around pretending to know something about mysticism. And, they watched a few shows, read a few books, went to a few seminars, maybe they decided to join a coven or a circle or whatever. And they believe that they do not have to do the physical work. They think that everything is going to be mental and that they can just think at something. Well, guess what? This is a third dimensional reality. You have to do things. You have to do things to appease those that have constructed this third dimension, as well as those dimensions that are not tangible, that we move through daily. You cannot take one part of the world and deny the other part of it. That's like taking your left hand and denying your right hand. It doesn't work that way. You have to do both those things that are physical and those things that are esoteric. Esoteric. This is the way that it goes. Do you understand? Do we understand? Good.
Yes.
Okay. So, when you go into the ceremony, you get all of those things that you are going to need for any ceremony. I'm just talking about candle magic right now. And yes, I go way around in order to talk about things, but I'm thorough. You need the candles, and you can do this how you choose. Remember what I said, okay? I use white unscented candles. I'm just the 230-pound mystic in the room. You could do whatever you want to do, okay? And see how it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, then perhaps try it the way that I'm showing you. Okay? Now, you can, once you get that, you make sure that you have a lighter or matches or whatever you choose. There are some people that like to argue that matches are more spiritual. But let me tell you something. Remember this. Fire is fire. And I will flick my bick at any moment in time. Okay? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. If you're going to use a lighter or matches for ceremonial purposes, you make sure you are the only one that touches it. You make sure you are the only one that handles it. Do we understand?
Yes.
Okay? Now, there are lighters that you can use for utilitarian purposes that other people can use, fine. But when it comes to your ceremonial tools, you are the one that's supposed to handle them. That includes that candle that you are about to use. Don't go doing your ceremonial candle and leaving it out for someone to come and say, hey, what is this? You know, and then get mad at them because they touched your ceremonial tool. You left it right there. Put your toys away, please. Or put them in a place that they cannot be touched. That is obvious that you do not want them to be touched. Now, when you do your ceremony, please make sure that either there are people around that are either supportive of what it is that you're doing and respectful, or no one at all. Okay? You do not need to be scrutinized by someone because you are doing a ceremony. You do not need for people to jabber at you while you're doing your ceremony. And you do not need disrespect. Because if you put yourself in a position of being disrespected, that means that you disrespect yourself. And you're also disrespecting your ceremony. These are some of the rules. And I will go on to answer questions about these rules. Okay? And once your ceremony is done, don't leave things hanging around. I can't tell you how many times that I've seen people do circles somewhere and want to just leave things there. When you do a ceremony, it should be as if you haven't done it once you leave. As if you have left. You can't leave anything behind. And if you can, cover your footprints if you do it someplace out in the sand. Just take everything with you. Pick up your things. Okay? You don't want someone coming behind you and say, someone did magic here. How do you know that someone did magic? Because there's a thing in the sand over there with candles and, you know.
Circle on the star.
Once it's done, please complete it. The completion is that you pick up your tools and you move on. So that the next person can come along unimpeded by what it is that you have done. Or so that the negativity that may be around does not latch on to your ceremony and thwart you. That's an interesting word, thwart.
Thwart.
Yes.
That's like Schwartz.
Not quite. You know, so be very thorough. There are rules to mysticism. And if you would like, I would be more than happy to answer those questions that pertain to the rules. I know the rules. Okay? And those rules change. And they augment themselves and diminish themselves minutely. It's up to the rules. There's a right way to do things, and then there's a bunch of wrong ways. Hopefully, we learn to do things the right way. Now, if there are any of you that are interested in candle magic, let me know. You can always ask a question about it, or you can give us a call, or you can take classes from me, and I do teach the classes, and I'm very, very thorough. Those that have taken classes from me can attest to that fact. But once I am done with you, you will know what you were doing. All right, so I'll open the floor for questions. Do we have anything yet, or are people just kind of listening?
We have a few questions. We have a few questions.
What do you got?
Well, for those of you all, just joining in. This is Ask Unicorn episode 34, and
That's
today is May 21st. And let's see, we have a few comments. Seth said thank you, and that he's very excited to see your film come to life. Awesome.
And I am yours.
And Trisha was agreeing with your Netflix rant, I believe. And she also asks, I was wondering, can you please explain what exactly is an elemental and what makes one an elemental, and what is their purpose/abilities?
Your particular purpose, Trisha, is to understand and learn about fire. If you learn about fire, then you'll understand why things happen the way that they do with you. Okay? Your particular element is fire, and that should be really apparent to you. What an elemental is those that actually create, maintain, and make sure that there is enough energy for a particular element such as fire, water, earth, air, lightning, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and these are beings that you can see sometimes, beings that you can't see sometimes. And then there are those that have a shard. Okay, it's kind of like a piece or a part of that elemental being in them. You do. Okay? You, like many others that have a piece of that elemental. Okay? You're supposed to assist your brethren, sisterin. You assist the element. For instance, I have a really wonderful relationship with the wind. Therefore, I do things that will assist the wind. I also have a magnificent relationship with lightning. Therefore, I do things that will assist the flow of lightning.
Great. What about, what could she do with fire?
What do you mean, what could she do with fire?
Assist.
Light a candle.
Okay, then.
You're just asking for yourself. Don't even try that. That was funny.
Because I was thinking of...
Because you're disastrous with fire.
Some people are pyros.
No. That has nothing to do with it. Okay, you get a person that... And actually, that's not correct. That person may be an elemental, and they may have that element within them because they're fascinated with fire, but it went to an aberration. And they were not disciplined or trained or even acknowledged that they have that affinity for that particular element. So they're more than they're fascinated, and in their way they're supporting fire, but in a very negative way. If they get to someone that can actually help them to understand that fire plays a very important role in the life of humans and all of us, then they would have a lot more respect for it and respect for the life that fire supports. Fire is alive. It is very, very sentient. And you, dear Tricia, are one of those people that understand that. Your temper is the way that it is, and so is their temperament the way that it is, because you're extremely fiery. I knew that from the first moment I spoke to you. You've got a fire elemental. And since you're a fire elemental type, then you need to train yourself with fire. And I've got some wonderful exercises for you whenever you are interested. Okay, they will help you. And that goes for water, air, earth. And yes, I can usually see whether or not a person is an elemental, and I can definitely see if a certain element will help them and assist them. There are a lot of people that have gone through very traumatic things in their life that their element would help them get rid of that trauma. It's just that these particular things are not taught in normal curriculum, nor are they used in normal medical practices or therapeutic practices, and they very well should be. Most of the people that are therapists out there really are not qualified to do that kind of work. They usually get in that particular type of work to fix themselves. I, however, do not need fixing, and nor do many people that are like me. To sit with someone that's not really going to identify with you must be really, really hard. I mean, seriously hard. To listen to a person going, uh-huh. Really? Well, let's explore that. How do you feel about that? What does that make you feel? Well, why don't we take a look at that? Nuts. When all they really have to do is reach inside of themselves and understand that spirituality is one of those things that is universal. And because we all exist in the same etheric field of this earth, and therefore we are etherically joined, we can all relate to each other. Remember, literally, we all are one. We are all one. But what we need to do is be able to see that we are aspects of the same type of being. Different personalities, different principles, different aspects, different realities, different dimensions, ups, downs, left, right, front, back, in, out, all of those things. We are still part of the same universal being. And if we can see that, not only would we have understanding and compassion, we would not sit there and be condescending to the person that is saying, listen, I've gone through this, I've gone through this, I've gone through this, and I'm having a hard time with this. Is there a way to help me? At all. Okay? You give them things to do. You make them understand. You use the elements. You use the minds. You use the bodies. You use the dimensions. You use the senses. All of these things come into play. So with you, Tricia, we need to get you to understand fire. If you did that, what that would do is it would take that imbalance that you sometimes get and level it out. Okay? Start doing some things with fire. I would like for you to just sit with the candle for 5 minutes Sit comfortably. Make sure the candle is a safe distance away from you. Close your eyes. See if you can detect the light of the candle through your eyelids. And once you can, see if you can make it brighter. See if you can see it clearer with your eyes closed. Don't strain your brain, just relax. Do not try to block anything out. Do that for 5 minutes and then take 7 deep breaths. Open your eyes. Go about your day. It will help you, because soon what will happen is you'll begin to remember that flame. And if you've ever watched a candle flame, unless there's a wind or there's another errant vibration, the candle flame is very, very calm. Extremely calm. It moves like it's liquid. Flows back and forth. Sometimes it will lean for a time. And even that means something. Do that. Your mind will quiet. If you've ever listened, a candle flame is very quiet. Very quiet. Do that. Do that. Just do it for a week and see how it makes you feel. All of a sudden you'll be able to sort things in your mind correctly. Things that didn't make sense to you before will begin to make sense. Sometimes a person who's a fire elemental has a habit of lashing out at people even when they don't mean to. That's the nature of fire. Fire does that. So if we can maintain the fire and build a wonderful relationship with it, that fire will become like a familiar to you. You'll look at it and see what it's doing and then match yourself to it. Or maybe it will look at you and match itself to you. And if things are going haywire, check the fire to see if they're going haywire. And if you reach that identification and look at it, maybe you can stop things from going haywire just by building that relationship. That's exactly what it does. That's exactly what you are. And what I've told you is exactly what an elemental is. All right, hope that helps you. What do we got?
We have a question from Felicia Murray.
Hello.
Hello. And she says, let me find it here. There you go. Stop messaging me. Hold on.
It says stop messaging?
No, I have to scroll up looking for it.
Recalculating.
Recalculating. Here it is. It was a good question. She says, is it possible for a haunting to happen, like, for example, a murder scene, but the crime has not happened yet, but the haunting is happening?
Yes. It is definitely that. It depends on where you are and what type of an event is taking place. I've told you before that we're merely echoes of each other. We're also echoes of our own lives. What is she doing?
Snoring.
There are also events that can become echoes. Maybe that event did happen in another dimension. And maybe the dimension that you're in leads very, very close. Or is very, very close to that actual happening. It's very, very rare. But yeah, there are pre-echoes. Definitely that. That's usually how people like me get information. Like if something's about to happen that could be catastrophic, I can usually see it. And then try to notify people, but most of the time they really don't believe you. Like, listen to me, I can tell you all this. I did see the September 11th attack before it happened. I did, and I told people about it. And of course nobody believes you. But, you know, I told them, and I said, no, I saw it. A plane crashed right into it, and it caused a whole uproar. It was hideous. And I even told them, it's in September this year. And it's hard to get people to believe you. I also saw the tsunami. I told people for a couple of years about the tsunami, remember?
Yep.
I did tell them. I told them. But what was I supposed to do about it? You know, I told them it's not even here. It's some island, someplace. And it was bad. So I did some measures to help against it happening again. You know, people like myself, we see things, and not everyone can explain what it is that they're saying, but it's like an echo. You get this pre-echo, you know. I would always know when there was an earthquake. I can tell when there's going to be a tornado. I don't care what anyone has to say. I can, you know, tell when there's a giant event that is happening, or sometimes smaller events that will happen. Yes, I can see whether or not someone is going to win the Super Bowl. I can also see when someone is going to win the basketball thing, and when, you know, yeah, I can see that crap. It's just junk, really. And sometimes I tell people, especially when I get someone who's a hardcore fan that doesn't listen to reason. But when we see things like that and we get an echo, like what you're talking about, if something really bad is about to happen, yes, I can see it. You know why? It telegraphs itself. It's like a boxer, you know, that will telegraph a punch. You can see it coming. And then what you do is you just move people. You don't always have to go up to them and say, "Hey, you're about to drop that piece of glass on your foot." What you do is you just move the glass. And what you've done is eliminated a process. Although you kind of have to be at the right place at the right time to do that. And it's very, very difficult sometimes. I mean, I could spend the rest of my life pursuing things. But that's very hard. You know, it's very, very hard. Especially when what you're trying to stop from happening is happening like 2,000, 3,000 miles away. You know, so I used to do it when I worked at the Guana Cantina, you know, and people would ask me all the time, "How do you know that was going to happen?" "Oh, I just saw the energy dip there." So I'd stop fights, stop other catastrophes. In fact, I knew where that girl, remember that Saint Laurent girl disappeared.
Yeah, that was like years ago.
I went looking for her, but it was too far for me to walk. And then I tried to tell people, and I even told a person to tell the chief of police to contact me. You know, the guy just would not contact me at all. Would not.
Instead, we have people calling us, asking if we know other psychics that would be willing to work with the police.
I always offer my help. Always. Always. I have offered my help on a local, state, and federal level. It would be a dream job for me to train the troops in this kind of work. Dream job for me to do that. They should be able to see things. Do you think for 1 second when they go overseas that their troops don't have people like me working for them? Seriously? Do you think that? They do. They do have people like me working for them. And doing some really nasty stuff, okay? Well, guess what? I'm equipped to defuse it. But I'm not the one that they'll pick. They'll pick the Harvard guy or the person with really big hair. You know, that really couldn't see anything, but pretend that they could. That's okay. Well, can you prove that you're psychic? Yes, I can prove that I'm psychic. I sure can. Let's see. I am visualizing an apple. I proved that I'm psychic. You know what psychic means, right? Mental. Am I going to prove that I'm a telepath? No, not to anybody. No one will ever force me to do that under any circumstances. I know what I am, and I know how good I am, and I'm good. Okay, so I'm not going to get in that. Anyway, yes, that can happen.
Alright, Trisha says, "It's funny you say this. I'm surrounded by candles constantly. I light them every single day for one reason or another. Thank you, and I will call you tomorrow if that's okay. And by the way, everything you said makes a lot of sense. Thanks again."
Thank you very, very much. And yes, you can call tomorrow.
Alright.
What have you got?
We have another question from Felicia Murray. She says, "My husband Harold is researching a case of a haunting that involved the living. These were not deceased people, but it is a haunting by a live human being. Is this possible?"
That's not a haunting.
This happened in the 70s in California, she says.
That's not necessarily haunting. That means that there's a concentration of energy that person is actually focusing. Okay? A haunting is a visitation. This person had an intent. There's a difference. Okay, so if that person is actually living, then what you want to do is look for an anchor. There's always an anchor. That means that person left something physically there. Your husband has to look for what's physically there. Okay, it could be anything. It could be just an object. It could be even a note or something scrawled someplace. Maybe a symbol, something got painted and then they painted over. You know, a common practice of people that would do this kind of things is to write a spell or an incantation or even a curse and then paint over it so that it couldn't be detected. You know, so you have to look for things like that. Maybe they gave the people that lived there a piece of furniture. Maybe they embedded something in the wall. Look for an irregularity. He has to look for an irregularity, okay? Something, you can ask questions. Remember, to an investigator, your bread and butter is questions. You have to ask questions. Find out if they brought something in the home. Find out when that something that they brought in the home was there. Find out who they got it from and why. Okay? There's always an anchor if you're dealing with the living. Always an anchor if you're dealing with the living. Always an anchor if you're dealing with the living. If you're dealing with the dead, there doesn't necessarily need to be an anchor. Okay? But that's an anchor someplace. And I'm actually looking. There's got to be either a bracelet, piece of jewelry, something. Watch, maybe. So, talking about what your thing is. So look for something that can be worn. It smells male, so there's something of male left there. Okay? All right.
She says, my husband is listening and he understands what it is like to try and get someone to believe you that you saw a future event. He was trying to explain what a flying white Twinkie was.
A flying white Twinkie, like a spaceship?
Yeah. I'm not so sure what she was referring to, but maybe that thing of the Ukraine that was our supposed.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, our secret.
We don't have
Spacecraft.
the technology to do any of that crap. Don't believe them when they try to say that the U.S. is. We have interstellar spacecraft. We have interstellar nothing. Okay, because they keep giving the money to the wrong people. We should have interstellar stuff by now.
We have another question from Arlisha Valentine. She asks, what can empaths do to shield themselves from emotional overload?
Good question.
Overload.
The moment that you detect even a little bit of emotion, you need to change your position or change your place. You should dress defensively. Don't wear things that are going to leave your midriff exposed. Okay, and you might get something that's going to help block it a bit. You know, maybe an undershirt or something, some type of a talisman that you can cover this particular area with. There are some old Native American practices, and I hate to say Native American, so I'll just say Native because I'm actually Native, that will cover the third circuit. If you can cover this circuit, that's your solar plexus, third circuit, which is also known as the psychic circuit, you can cut yourself off pretty well. There's a formation that you can do. Link your hands like this, like make a little chain, clasp the rest of your fingers, and then put it right over your solar plexus, and that will calm your circuit down. It will separate things and keep your energy in and keep whatever energy is trying to get at you out. Okay? Effectively. It works. You just sit there for about 5 minutes and you can always tell where the attention is coming from or where the attack or even the energy is coming from, because that particular person that the energy is coming from will look at you and say, what are you doing? You know, so it just works that way. This is the thing about negativity. Darkness always tells what it's doing. Every single time. Sometimes it will say what it's doing after the fact. Have you ever watched anime? You know, like some of the anime cartoons where, you know, you got two people about to square off with each other and one shoots its power at the other one, the other one shoots back and says, I see that your power is based upon telepathy. Well, my particular power blocks telepathy and then shoots my own kind of telepathy, and all I really have to say is Scooby-Doo. And then at that point, I would just block the person's mouth from saying that, but they don't really count on that. Well, darkness is kind of like that. All I have to do is throw this down, and then that will thwart you. Well, if they threw it down, then you'd see it and step around it if you're smart. You know, so negativity always tells what it's doing. So that person will come and say, "What are you doing?" And you can say, "Nothing, just sitting." Yeah, but why are you sitting with your hands like that? Oh, it's just a meditation position, nothing big. Oh. And then if they press again, then you know that's the person that it's coming from. And at that particular point, because you've discovered the source, you can just let go. That's how you'll do that. Other times, if there's no one around, you need to not touch stuff. Okay, empaths have this ineffable ability to touch everything. Stop it. Don't touch stuff. Okay? And then wonder why feelings go all up your arm and into your body. You gotta keep your hands to yourself. That's a real healthy practice. Okay? And I think one of the main things with an empath is it's very difficult for you to tell your feelings apart from someone else's, because a lot of times you'll think it's you thinking something and it's not. It's usually the other person. You just kind of have to learn to talk and get things out. Okay? And don't get all embarrassed by certain things that you all feel, because empaths are always also like that. You know, if someone is feeling rather amorous towards you, you'll think it's you. You don't have to think it's you. Very simple. Use the technique that I've told you. Make the chain link with your first finger and thumb. You know, a little magician's trick. You know, clasp your fingers, put it over your third circuit, and wait. Everything will subside, and then you'll be fine. So, hope that helps you out. And what else have you got?
Felicia Murray says that in 1971, Harold was 9 years old and he saw the Challenger disaster. When he tried to draw a picture, it looked like a white Twinkie with wings. That's great.
That's great.
It's a great story. Arlisha Valentine also asks, what can I do to get my guides to be clear when they give me a message?
Your guides are always clear when they give you a message. You need to clear your head. Guides are always very clear. It's we that need to learn how to adjust our listening. And rather than waiting for the message, you usually can sense what it is that they're trying to say. But I once, I listened to a person that say, I'm waiting for a sign for God, and I've told God what kind of sign I want. Okay? That's not how it works. Okay? Your guides will speak to you the way that they speak. It is for you to assimilate what it is that they're saying. It is for you to stretch yourself. It is for you to try to translate in the best way possible. And if you really put forth that particular effort, you'll find it. It works every single time. You may have to be patient with it. It may take time. You may get just bits and pieces of it. But they're always clear. They are always clear. What you should ask is, how do you get yourself to be more clear? And it's not about your concentration. I think that you have excellent concentration. I think it's your focus that needs work. Okay? And if you're interested in focus, enhancing abilities, I do teach classes. Okay.
Awesome. And for those of you that would like to call in, you can
Do
dial 207-347-5686. We welcome any questions that pertain to the metaphysical or spiritual.
Our phone panel is awaiting your call.
It's getting lonely. Now, we have another question.
Sure.
It is from Natalia Casanueva. They say, greetings. Does making an altar help to communicate with the ancestors? If so, is it true that you put things on it that ancestor liked while living? Thank you.
If you have things that ancestor liked, it would help. And doing an altar is basically a focal point for energy. So, of course, it's going to help. Just understand that there are ways to do an altar, okay? Don't just put a bunch of stuff that you think that ancestor liked on it. You have to put what is comfortable for you. If you can do something that will represent simple, so that will represent all four directions, okay, and you can do something that represents all five elements, that would help. Do something that represents the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and that would definitely help you. Okay, so yes, altars always help. And if you can find something that the ancestor, that you know that the ancestor was akin to, I had some kinship with, then yes, it will help you out. Just remember something. When you're trying to get in contact with an ancestor, the ancestors are always around, and they leave knowledge all the time. If you're dealing with a spirit, you have to learn the difference between what is a spirit that you want to talk to and what is a spirit that you do not want to talk to. Okay? Try to steer clear of certain tools that would put you in touch with spirits. They're always here. Okay? You don't have to do certain things. And I definitely do not, for those of you that do not understand this, I will say it again in perfect English. I do not condone the use of a Ouija board. It is not a game. I don't care what any people think. It's not something that should be tampered with. I don't care if you call it an angel board. It's still a Ouija board. Don't do it. Okay? Don't mess with those things. They're bad. They're evil. They will hurt you. Okay? Do your altar. Say your prayer. You know, say something to that ancestor and speak to them like you would speak to them if they were actually physically here. As I say many, many times, remember, they don't have a body. They have a mind. And most times, to be honest with you, those beings that you think that you know are ancestors, many times have reincarnated, so they may not be there anymore. Okay? They may be someone else. The thought of them will still exist, or the energy of them may exist, but that person may not even be there anymore, just like you may not be here one day. You may have gone on to another life, just like all of us. It is time for us to grow up spiritually. You know, there are a lot of us that have some real good spiritual thought, and that thought about the altar is a very, very good thought. Just understand that you're going to have to take a very mature approach to it. There has to be a reason why you want to contact that particular ancestor. What are you looking for? What are you looking for that you can't attain by speaking to another individual? See, we do some things that are very, very interesting. A lot of people love to talk to God, and you should always talk to God or Goddess. But like I was saying before, I talked to this person that said that they wanted a sign from God, and they told God what kind of sign they want, and they won't accept any other answer but that. That person may be waiting forever. You don't tell the universe what kind of answer you want. You listen for the answer that they give you, and then see if you can hear it and understand it. Well, it's the same with your ancestors. If there's a reason that you want to contact that particular ancestor, understand that you can contact that particular ancestor at any moment in time, or at least the thought of that ancestor, because knowledge is abounding. The same knowledge and wisdom that that ancestor departed with is imparted is the same knowledge that is here today. We just have to tap into it. But if you do reach that ancestor, think about what you might give it in return. And there's the rub, isn't it? Universal law of exchange says that for everything that is given, something must be given in return. This is how it is. So, tread carefully on this particular area. Good question, though.
And Natalia Casanueva also says that I desperately miss my mom. I thought the altar would help with my pain.
The altar doesn't help with your pain. The altar merely gives you a focal point. Your prayers will help you with the pain. Do you understand? The universe will help you with the pain. And I think that your mom will be around, but I think that she would do better understanding that you're working your way through the pain. Okay? It would help you to let her go. I'm not saying to let her go right away, nor am I rushing you in any way, shape, or form. I'm only saying you are the one that will have to help you with your pain, and those that are around you that are living, they will have to help you with your pain. So look to the living. Your mother will be as supportive as she possibly can until which time that she has to move on. Accept that. Doesn't mean that you have to buy it all or agree with it or whatever. Just accept that that could be the way that it is. And then work your way through the pain. Okay? Day by day, moment by moment. The altar should help you. It would help you to think fond thoughts, positive thoughts about your mom. Okay? And perhaps she will come and visit you. There's a way to ensure that there's a visitation, but I won't do that on this show. If you'd like to know, you can always get in touch with me at info@unicorn-cove.com, www.unicorn-cove.com. You can always give us a call, area code 207-347-5686, and we can do a private thing about that. Okay.
And for those of you that didn't know, he also does classes and appointments through Skype as well as phone.
That's correct.
There are
Now, listen,
options.
there are a lot of you that want to learn, and I understand that a lot of people don't have a lot of money. I'm willing to work with you, but I do not teach for free. Okay? There will have to be some exchange. I have a fee for my classes, and that's just the way that it is. I used to do classes for free for people, but I got taken advantage of, so I'm not allowed to do that anymore. Hopefully, I can build up enough that the universe will allow me to do that again. Because if it was up to me, I would teach everything for free. But that universal law of exchange is something that even I have to obey. So, I love teaching. I love to see people grow and change. And I'm good at what I do. All right. Anything else?
Felicia Murray says, Harold says, laugh now, it wasn't funny then. He had to have 3 years of counselor help because his school and parents thought he was crazy.
I understand. Believe me. I learned after that only to tell certain people what I saw. You know, because I was threatened quite a few times with being taken to the psychiatrist or, you know, have the white coats come to visit me. It didn't really scare me. It just made me change, you know, so that I would be able to say things so that it came out in a way that people would know that I knew what I was talking about. And then I picked and chose my battles. So believe you me, I understand. You know, I do understand. And that's why I did a call to all of those that have gifts last week. I said, listen, if you have a gift and you see things or you feel things or you have another type of seeing or sight, it's time to stop hiding. Okay? Stop hiding. Be who you are. Be what you are. And you know what? If you need help, I'm around. And there are probably others that are like me around. I'll be more than willing to help you to develop yourself. If you need help, you seriously need help in these areas, listen, I help people because I help people. That doesn't cost any money. But if you need my classes, that's different. But if you just need help reasoning with things or there's something that's hurting you, healing of any kind should never have a cost. Okay? Just to let you know that. All right, what else have you got there?
I believe that's it for questions.
What is our time like?
9:13.
9:13.
9:13.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'd like to thank you all for coming to class. I said coming to class today. I'd like to thank you all for
ending class.
Yeah. I'd like to thank you all for coming to Way of the Unicorn. Next week we'll be choosing a different topic. Please have all of your questions ready. Be ready if you like. You can look at it as a class time situation. This is my way of giving back to the community at large. Okay, like I said, there has to be a rule of exchange, and you all have all given me a lot. I am giving back this way. So you can consider this a class if you'd like. And I will be more than happy to help you out with any issue that you are having. Thank you again for coming to Ask the Unicorn, Way of the Unicorn. And if there are no more questions, I will see you all next week.
Night night.